In this video, we will explore how to use the functionality of the multi-sample compare tool. From the Reporting tab, click the Multi-Sample Compare block. This takes us to a page where we can add several software versions to compare against longitudinally. First, we need to add software versions to populate our test. By clicking this text box, we can add the versions we are interested in by typing the software versions into the box, or simply by scrolling down to find them. I populated the box with several versions from the BCF Tools workflow. We then click Submit to get started. We can see that our test has output a table of concordance for each sample dataset, which corresponds by row, and each software version, which corresponds by column. Each version is compared to the version immediately to the left of it. We can see that our baseline is the furthest column to the left, and each subsequent column moving right is compared to the version of the column to the left. If we wanted to change the order in which these were compared, we can drag and drop the versions directly on the Configure Comparison test block. We can see that we changed our baseline, and now version 1.4 is being compared to version 1.4.1. We can also switch the comparison characteristics to compare all versions against the baseline instead of the default view's previous version comparison. To do this, click on the Against Previous button located at the top right of the page. We can see that we have now toggled the Against Baseline view, where we can tell the tool which version is the baseline to compare against. We can populate this baseline version. When we submit the configured comparison again, we now see that the columns are being compared to the version we set as baseline. However, for the sake of this tutorial, we are going to use the functionality in the Against Previous view. This view serves a multitude of purposes. Upon submission, we can click Precision, Recall, F1, in addition to Concordance, to get all the metrics we want laid out in a table. We can also click the various average diffs buttons to display differences between versions and display those statistics by absolute value or by percentage, simply by toggling these boxes. Looking at the reference depth diffs will help us understand the usefulness of this tool. When we compare using reference depth, we can see that something happened between versions 1.4 and 1.5 affecting reference depth. We can see a similar trend if we look at Alt-DP as well. The colors and arrows of the cells also give us an indication if the performance improved or decreased from one version to the next. From the diffs table view, each cell is a link that takes us directly to a query chart where we can visualize the metrics in interest. When we click a cell, a new tab opens and we can see the diffs outlaid for that cell that we clicked. Moving back to our original tab, the Settings and Filters buttons in the top right corner let us open or collapse functionality from the Test and Configure View blocks. From the Configure View block, we can shade our table by row, by column, or by all, depending on what we prefer. We can also copy our results and export our report to an Excel or CSV file for future presenting, sharing, and viewing.